Jack Nicholls, and welcome to home.
He's going to break Hayesmith's world title.
These two go.
He's going to do it. His first victory.
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Imola. It's round 5 of the 2023 Formula SimRacing Pro Championship in partnership with VCO eSports. We're very thankful for their support. We were in Silverstone just 3 weeks ago for what was a fantastic race, a spectacle of FSR racing, which we haven't seen for quite a while. George Zalagianis took his first pro victory for Ground Effect Sim Racing, with the two Burst eSport drivers of Cameron Roger and Tom Aldermenger rounding off the podium in a very strong showing for the team. Victor Even meant that Tom Aldermenger has reduced the gap at the top of the championship to just 16 points, and that championship lead is within reach. My name is Darragh Thacker, and joining me this evening is Edward Hunter, who you will have heard on the Academy stream just a moment ago, which means that, Ed, you've already seen some cracking racing here this evening at the Autodromo Imola, so what can we expect from this hyper-competitive pro grid?
Yeah, wonderful track, the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari and the Academy. There was certainly some controversy, but also some fantastic racing throughout the field, up and down in Academy. I think Pro, we're going to see more of the same, but a longer race, 50 laps to play with. That means more strategic options. It means we're going to see loads of drivers taking risks. We're going to see all sorts of gambles that potentially will or won't pay off. And first off, we're going to see what is no doubt going to be a very, very close and a cracking qualifying session, Darragh. And I'm looking forward to it.
100%. And Imola's one of those tracks, isn't it, where it can be... It's one of the classic tracks. There's not much room for error. You've got to get the car exactly where you need to be. Runoffs are very narrow, if existent at all. But there you can see we're at round 5 of the championship. We've gone through the first 4 races, but it means that after this evening, we're going to be more than halfway through the season. And does that mean that some of the drivers will be having that in the back of their minds, that they've got to get the results very soon, otherwise the championship is completely gone for them?
Yeah, well, it's been very, very hard to be consistent. We've had a lot of different winners, different winner each race so far this season. We've not had any repeat winners yet, although statistically it gets more and more likely each race we do, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's of course Ivanov in the NX27 who's had the most consistent run, worst result of 4th, which you say first race off the podium, of course, very rightly, but that's still a pretty decent result if your worst result is 4th and you otherwise finish 1st or 2nd. So Ivanov is certainly on top at the moment, but Aldermenger, Moynier, and several others as well have had their moments, have really shone on occasion. Zalagianis too, who won at Silverstone, so I think all of them could well be factors today. And we see the pro field, it's very, very competitive towards the front and middle. It's so hard to finish in the top 10 here that any points you can get are richly deserved.
Oh, definitely, exactly, and that is definitely going to be the case this evening. But here we are into the last stages of practice here at Imola. Let's have a look. This is Victor Ivanov's car. This NX27. It's an interesting livery. It's a bit striking.
That's one word for it, Darragh.
Yeah, I'm not convinced myself.
Yeah. The classic orange and pink combo, yes.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by it. I mean, if he's happy with it, then that's fine. If he's fast, then he's not going to mind. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I'm going to have a sore eye if we're seeing too much of him this evening. That bright pink and orange car, as you can see, it reads even off at the back. But yeah, he's currently just behind Patrick Sevet in this practice session. You can already see by the time, this is an incredibly tight field.
Indeed, top 3 all within less than a 10th then, and Ivanov currently only trailing Patrick Sevet by a 100th of a second. It's a 100th of a second. Sorry, I always keep mixing up my decimal points and make things sound a lot closer than they actually are sometimes, but not on this occasion. So we are getting some news in now, by the way, Darragh, which is that we do have a couple of subs in for this race. So obviously, not just Victor Ivanov's teammate Liam Howard being absent and replaced by Danny Van Der Neet, who you may remember competed quite a lot. Racing World Championship is one of the Visceral Esports cars has a massive accident in the background, but no worries. They'll just go back to the pits. That's what happens when you get Piratella wrong, ladies and gents. But we're also seeing the other on track, which is Ruven Machete, who's filling in for Peter Vagapov, who has been banned for a race for crashing into Stoyan Barbakov on the cooldown lap at Silverstone. So it was a frustrating race for Vagapov because he apparently hadn't set his pedals up correctly. So he even when he wasn't pressing them, the regen for the battery, the electric sort of energy in the powertrain wasn't working properly, because even when he wasn't on the throttle, there was a little bit of throttle input detected. So no regen for him in the second half of the race onwards, which was a massive blow, and obviously, painted up a lot of frustration there. And sadly, he's paid the price for letting that frustration get the better of him.
Yeah, and that means we're one car down here this evening, but no worries.
Well, Machete's filling in for him, I think. They have
Machete's filling in for him.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we've still got 20 cars on the track then. And Netrix, there's Neat here in one of the Netrix cars. He's coming around Piratella now and then diving down the hill towards Aqua Minerale. But of course, practice isn't necessarily where you've got to get it done. The shortened qualifying sessions that we see in FSR mean that the drivers have to get their lap in very early on in the session, or they may risk finding themselves quite a long way down the back of the order. And also as well, Town 1 at Imola, Ed, it can be quite a tight one, isn't it? The pinch is quite significant, and we do see some incidents there, and we saw a couple of first lap incidents last time out at Silverstone across all of the different FSR categories, and I wonder if we might see the same kind of start here again today.
Yeah, the other thing about that run into Tamburello is that there's grass either side. So if you're trying to go free wide, the people on the outside are in real risk, because if they hit the grass, they might end up doing like we saw George Russell in the 2021 race here, where he crashed into Valtteri Bottas, admittedly in wet, dry conditions, but he got a little bit too far on the curb and accidentally found himself spinning into the Mercedes-Benz as future employers, as it happens. Another interesting milestone in terms of attendance to keep in mind here, Darragh. Team Iris, who are up there, I think they're third in the Teams Championship at the moment, if I remember correctly. They've got all three cars in action today, which is the first time we've seen that since Bahrain, where I believe Alex Lehoux lasted about a lap before retiring. So great to see Bukout, Moynier, and Lehoux all in action here at Imola. I think all of them could. Bukout was actually on pole for the Academy race here last year, if I remember correctly. He was, yeah. So that certainly bodes well for him, and fourth in the practice session at the moment.
Yeah, I think they are just about second in the standings, but they're just ahead of Burst Esport, of course.
Oh, I underestimated them.
And Cam Roger, yeah, they're doing quite well, but I think they got a little bit worried after Burst Esport second and third last time out in Silverstone. So they've got the club back together again to try and chase after Royal Blue Racing, who of course lead the championship with three of their cars here this evening in Sevit, Barbikov and Mancini. I don't think Simon Frelich is here this evening, looking at their order. No, I don't think he is. So there's 3 for Royal Blue, 3 for Team Iris, and that might give us a little bit of interest in the championship, because of course those two are currently first and second. But as we tick towards the end of this practice session, Sevit has just been ousted by last time out's race winner George Zalagianis by the very small margin of, I believe that is only 0.005 of a second, and Viktor Ivanov was only 1,000th behind that. So not much in it at all as we head into this into this qualifying session, I should say. And yeah, I think we've got to be looking forward to this one. I don't think it's going to be over until the very end of this qualifying session, and we're just going to have to keep ourselves expectantly waiting for that time to come in right at the end of the session.
18.6 in the first sector for Ivanov, so he's nearly a tenth quicker than the both of them. They all caught up in sectors 2 and 3. So that's very, very interesting going into this race. It tells you in terms of qualifying versus race setup, that's going to be an interesting factor here, because in Academy you might risk going for a quali setup to try and get track position at certain tracks, and we are in quali now there, but not often in pro, because with the longer race, tyre wear more of a factor, so you don't really want to burn them up too quickly.
No, exactly, and those tyres are going to be important for the race, especially at a track like Imola, where you have quite a lot of fast corners. Those tyres do start to slide quite a bit, and the temperatures can go quite high. But of course, ambient temperature around for this qualifying session is only just under 22 degrees, track temperature 37. So not too toasty, but warm enough to keep your t-shirts on and keep the coats off around this Imola track in central Italy, well, northern central Italy, on the plains. But we see George Zaligiannis here. A lot of the drivers coming out early on for this session. Of course, 10 minutes isn't very long to get the time in, and Ed, isn't it important to get that early lap in to make sure that you're not worrying about getting the time in right at the end of the session?
Yeah, it was interesting. In Academy, we did see Pavel Andrzejewski, I believe it was, that went out just on the mediums just to get a not a banker lap in, but certainly just to start on the harder compound, maybe get a little bit of cheeky practice in for using the mediums in the race, but also just to start from a sort of baseline, see where the grip is, feel his way around, and then switch to the softs, and then set a faster lap time then. So people approach qualifying differently. Depends on your mindset. Others just like to ram straight in, get the quickest lap they can, and then try and match it about 6 or 7 times after.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that can be difficult, but that also can be effective with the consistent drivers. Of course, some drivers do like their one-lap pace a little bit more than they like their longer run pace, and so if you can find a little bit of a rhythm and try and get that time up just by the 100th every lap or so, then you can find yourself a little bit further up the order than maybe you were expecting, and then take advantage of that higher grid position. But we see George Zaligiannis here, 18.9, is that an 8? Yes, 18.8 there through that first sector, but not quicker than Viktor Ivanov, who's got 18.6, just over a tenth faster than George Zaligiannis early on in the session. But, you know, there's still a long way to go, and there is quite a long way in the lap. Of course, lots of corners, they just keep coming at you. Oh, big mistake. Oh, that's a massive crash for Zaligiannis, and that's a lot of damage on the ground effects sim racing car, and that will take some time to repair. And yeah, that's not going to sort him very well for the rest of this qualifying session at all.
Not the ideal way to start, no, but that is exactly the kind of thing that can happen when you get Acrominerale wrong, Darragh. It's such a tricky corner because you're sort of turning and braking. It forces you to do that at the same time. And the exit, if you just get a little bit out of line, it can be absolutely lethal, as we see Patrick Sevet finish his lap. And that gets him into currently P2.
Yeah, just behind Viktor Ivanov, who of course is the championship leader. He'll be hoping to pick up his better results after the somewhat disappointing finish last time out at Silverstone. I say disappointing, of course. He did still come in the top 4. So it's got a high bar he sets for himself, but I'm sure he'll be pleased to see himself on provisional pole by just about a quarter of a second. That's Paul Augustin going wide through Ravazza 1, and that is not the ideal line through there. You're going to have to put the car a little bit more on the track if you're going to put yourself anywhere further up the order, and I don't think this will put him stand him in very good stead. It doesn't at all. Of course, we look further down the order. The two Burst eSports drivers, Cameron Roger, Tom Oldenmenger, 14th and 16th. They've got some time to find, but I should note that Cam Roger has not had the amount of practice time that he would normally have, as he's been a very busy man over the last week and a half or so. But look, we see Viktor Ivanov now in his NX27 car coming down towards Acrominerale, and yeah, he's got to be pleased, Ed, with how this qualifying session has started.
Yeah, Zaligiannis was probably one of the main threats to him, and he's ended up in the barrier. So that he won't know that will happen, of course, because it's a private session, or he might have heard it secondhand from one of his teammates or engineers. But certainly, that is when you can see your time up front, 2 tenths to the good. It's not a bad way to start the session at all, but you can never afford to get complacent. And we saw Ivanov, even though he finished 4th, like you say, he wasn't happy with that because he's got to finish on the podium every race if he wants to be absolutely sure of maintaining that championship lead. We are at the midpoint in the season, and if a challenge is going to emerge, they're really going to have to go some to keep this man, this blistering Bulgarian Viktor Ivanov, at bay, because there just doesn't seem to be anything that can stop him sometimes.
Yeah, and Patrick Sevet is
apart from this horrendous livery, of course.
Yes, the livery not I think any of our favourites, but yeah, he'll be fine. He's got the I keep trying to think of a nickname for it, but I just cannot think. It's just such an outrageous. Maybe
instead of Racing Point, Racing Puke.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good one, to be fair. But I was just to mention Patrick Sevet. He's gone under the radar a bit, of course, the last couple of races. He finished 6th in the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve and 10th at Silverstone, but he's still 3rd in the championship, so he is still plodding along getting the results, and he's going to be looking at the fact that Tom Oldenmanger is down in 16th at the moment and thinking that he might be able to take advantage and put in a good result for him and the team to maybe push himself up, maybe close to even off, but at this rate, definitely ahead of Oldenmanger. But we all know how good Tom's pace is during the race. He makes up many positions from wherever he starts from. So he'll be able to do the same today. Viktor Ivanov is going to run to the line. Does he improve on the time? We'll see as he crosses the line. I'm not sure that he has. Maybe just about. Yes, I think just about. Just a couple of hundredths going for a 15.52. But yeah, only a couple of hundredths in it. But he still extends it, and that couple of hundreds could be important, Ed, by the end, isn't it? Because as we saw in practice, the times were so tight that every thousandth counts.
Yeah, really good first two sectors. 18.694. 24.578 purple middle sector as well. So yeah, he's really not leaving much time on the table at all as Moynier gets himself up to second.
Does, and it's important for him to keep plodding in the lap times as well. Of course, Mounier was the winner at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve after starting on pole there. That's his only top 5 result of the season so far, but it means that he is up in 4th in the championship. So it's a good little flow for him if he manages to start up there. But looking at Fletcher there in 4th, we haven't seen Fletcher too high throughout the season. I think he'll be pleased with 4th early on in this qualifying session, and he's just over a quarter of a second away from Viktor Ivanov, so we'll have to keep an eye out for him during the race as well.
Yeah, it's a real shame for Valet that Fletcher's teammates have sort of fallen by the wayside. Essentially, I think Michael Ayres was driving earlier in the season and had to unfortunately leave us. Oh, Lianos goes straight into the barrier on the exit of Villeneuve chicane. And that is exactly what can happen when you let the rear tire get a little bit too far on the curb, try and get on the power a bit too early. You can find yourself having a major accident. And we saw that quite a few times, actually, in Academy, most notably with Scott Flack, and also Andrei Boratovsky had left the race in spectacular fashion, doing a pretty similar thing there.
Yeah, and it's a difficult track, isn't it, Imola, to keep it on the track sometimes. Of course, the traction zones can be a little bit bumpy, as we see coming through the Variante Alta. It's Leonov currently in 15th. He's improving on this lap, though, and he'll hope to push himself further, probably into the top 10 with this attempt, with the time ticking down to just over 2 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Of course, after this qualifying session, we'll be going into the race. Leonov, though, to the line. Can he make a good improvement? Currently down in P16, and see what the time is. He does jump up to P5. That's a good time for Leonov. He jumps quite high in terms of the rest of the field, but look at how tight it is. Leonov, Barbikov, and Bukout, not much in it at all, about half a tenth between those guys, and it's just going to be a matter of who gets the final lap in and absolutely perfects every single apex.
Yes, Wesley Bukout just 5 thousandths of a second behind Stoyan Barbikov in that fight for 6th, and the margins, it's little hundredths between them all, isn't it? So it's just those minor little things, maybe a little bit off the apex there, maybe a little bit late on the power here, maybe too early on the power and squirreling and losing traction here, as Zalagianis now trying to pick himself back up after his early crash. Final minute of the session, so he is at least still out there. But there we go, 3rd fastest for George Zalagianis. That's more like it. That's going to do him a world of good then.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that'll be his last attempt of the session, and he'll just try and hang on to that P3 if he can. I mean, Viktor Ivanov, we can see there's that 2/10 gap back to Loic Mounier, but behind Mounier, it is tight. I mean, you've got Zalagianis, Sevet, Fletcher, Leonov, Barbikov, and his teammate Bukout all within 2/10 of him. And it's really going to be down to who can nail it in this final set of runs. Neat here, currently in P8, teammate to Leonov, of course. Let's see if he can try and improve in front of his teammate. Of course, it's a long run towards the line here at Imola, as we just see him approach it now. What's the time going to be for Neat? He can't improve his position, but just about improves the time. 15.975 for him, as I think this is Patrick Sevic just about to start what will be his final run here in Imola.
Yeah, crucial for him then. Remember, he did get that 2nd place, Sevet, at the Spanish Grand Prix at Barcelona, where he finished 2nd to Ivanov in the end. But Ivanov is flying out there. He's gone even faster in the 1st sector, 18.678. So he's certainly not backing off and thinking that it's a done deal, because Moynier himself going a bit faster. Sevet, though, has eclipsed that there in the 1st sector, 6.51, only by a tiny bit, but he is faster.
He is, and it's just the 200ths between Ivanov and Sevet, and it would be a bit of a storm if Sevet was able to snatch the pole position off of Victor Ivanov. Munier as well, not far off himself. He's just 4,000ths behind Victor Ivanov's time as we see them come through the middle sector now. Patrick Sevet, he's lost a bit of time. He's just over a 10th down on what Ivanov did in that middle sector, which means he's going to be around a 10th off through that middle portion of the lap. There's only the final sector
is
to
very
come.
close though, Darragh.
He is very close, and he is right on the pace. I think he's just about half a tenth. If he can find that in the final sector, he might be in business. Patrick Sevet will not be improving in the end. We'll just wait to see if Munier can find the time as he runs to the line. Can he do it? Let's see when the time updates. I'm not sure that he has. He's just going to stay in P2, I believe. Yes, that's correct. And that'll be the end of qualifying then. A very tight session, but Victor Ivanov coming out on top ahead of Luc Munier and George Zalagianis, and I think they'll be very pleased with that as we head towards the warm-up and into the race. But here we go, Victor Ivanov, the fastest for an X27 in that pink machine. Luc Munier for Team Iris in P2, he'll try and get a good launch off of the line. George Zalagianis in third, and Patrick Sevet in fourth, trying to reclaim some championship pedigree. Sergio Fletcher in fifth with a good showing for Valley Esports. We've not seen him this high up for a little while now, so it's good to see him challenging in the top 5 with even Leonov putting in that good lap time towards the end, putting him up in 6th with Barbikov, Bukout, Danny van der Neet and Christian Pasquale rounding out the top 10 in this qualifying session. Interesting stuff before we move towards the race. I'm looking forward to seeing who can get the better launch off of the line, Ed, because of course the straight that isn't really a straight down towards turn 1 might throw up a couple of surprises.
It certainly could. Let's hope they're positive surprises in the form of overtakes rather than nasty surprises in the form of incidents and crashes. But yeah, I don't know what it is with that livery. Seems to have rebuilt Ivanov's confidence after the last round, the sort of pink pig monstrosity, but on wheels. But yeah, even the rims are pink as well. So he's gone all in on this aesthetic, and well, he seems to like looking at it. It works for him, I guess, which is the only person it needs to work for. But certainly Moynier, Sevet and Fletcher. Moynier especially, I think that's his best qualifying since his pole at Gilles Villeneuve. So he really needed to return to form. I think Moynier even had a post-race penalty for some contact at Silverstone as well, which lost him a couple of points. So Team Iris really needed Moynier on the front row. So Ivanov, despite how dominant that looked, I wouldn't predict him to win and just run off into the sunset just yet. I think the much nicer liveried pink car of Team Iris, and also similarly purpley kind of livery of the ground effect, I think could well be factors in the form of Moynier and Zalagianis. I think they're going to have to do some clever strategy there to come out on top.
Did you say that the Iris was pink?
I said it was purple.
Oh, you say it was purple? Okay.
Well, I was trying to say, I don't know what I actually said, but that was what I was thinking in my brain.
I think you said Team Iris was pink and ground effect was purple, but yeah, I think they're both
vice
purple.
versa.
Yeah, about that. But yeah, I think, I mean, the pink car, it's a Netrex car. It looks like it was designed by a dinosaur, fitting the Netrex name. But, that's not the ideal line for Wesley at all. That's a front wing absolutely gone. But there he is, Victor Ivanov, number 43. I'm still trying to fathom what was going through his mind when he decided to put that on the car. But again, if it works for him, it works for him. If he drives off into the sunset, then he'll have a car which makes him blend into it, quite frankly. So he'll hope to do well. He set a fast first sector on these higher fuel runs that they do in this warm-up session. Of course, very short warm-up session. They can only get about 1 lap in or so as he comes towards the Variante Alta, bouncing over that curbs. Not the ideal line if you bounce over the curves, but it does make a very good Twitter banner, doesn't it, Ed?
Oh, of course, yeah. But I think if you're good with the rFactor 2 camera, you can get any kind of good Twitter banner from any circuit, to be honest. Apart from, I don't know, there's a couple of less picturesque ones on there, but most of them are pretty solid. Or at least if you know a good angle. But yeah, that to me, if the Academy race was anything to go by, and the conditions haven't changed spectacularly, still 37 degrees track temperature, still bright and sunny, I would suspect the hard tyre is probably going to be the preferred tyre to start on. But we might see a couple people, maybe even up near the front, risk it on the mediums and try and build a gap.
And we have seen, haven't we, in the last couple of rounds at Jules Villeneuve and at Silverstone, where there's been a few that have gone a different way on the strategy. I remember very well that Viktor Ivanov went for a very weird strategy. I think it was a 3 or even a 4. He did one extra stop than everyone else throughout the race, and we were trying to work out which way he was going and where he was going to go next with the tyre, but he did go into second in the end, and it just didn't work out. Meunier held on for the win despite Ivanov charging up behind him, but we might see a couple of interesting strategies. Of course, Imola isn't the easiest circuit in the world to overtake at, so we might see a few drivers attempt it in the pit lane, and if they do, Ed, I think we're going to have to keep a very watchful eye on who's making those little gains on the outlap and the inlap.
Yeah, certainly. That is going to be who undercuts who, because the undercut is quite powerful here if used correctly. But you also, by the same margin, if you run out of tyres at the end of your stint, you can lose up to a second, 2 seconds per lap. So yeah, you really don't want to be left exposed out there. You've really got to cover off what your rivals are doing, and sometimes you do have to go through the pain of extending a stint to get the tyres to last, just so you don't have to make an extra visit to the pit lane. But as you say, Ivanov did that in Montreal and was able to almost make it work, but Mounier just had enough in hand to overcome him, and Mounier will be hoping it's a similar story today, although albeit he starts 1 spot lower than he did on that occasion.
Yeah, definitely. And with looking at the rest of the calendar, after this round at Imola, we go to Spa, we go to Monza, Suzuka, and Interlagos. And they are 4 very different tracks indeed, but I think the characteristics of Imola are more similar to the characteristics of Suzuka, of the 4 tracks after this one. Of course, more medium high speed corners, more difficult to overtake, got to be a little bit smarter with that pit strategy. So I think this will be an interesting chance to see the drivers who are going to be looking forward to that Suzuka race, and who might be trying to pick up some points just before the season finale, round 9 at Interlagos. But I think for all of these guys, they are going to be incredibly keen on trying to pick up every point they can. I mean, the mid-pack in this championship is incredibly tight. You look at from Janis Llanos in 6th in the championship down to Cameron Roger in 13th is only 20 points, so there's not much in it in that mid-pack, and every single point is going to be absolutely critical for these guys. And I think for some of them at the back end of the top 10, for some of the guys who are maybe outside the top 10, like Cam Roger, who was right at the front last week, they're going to have a different race, they're going to have to adjust. And I mean, what do you think about their chances in this race? Do you think it's an easier track to come from the back, or do you think you've got to start near the front in this race?
I don't know. I think I do think this sort of car does reward very, very intelligent driving with that battery management, with the time management as well. We've seen it from Tom Aldermenga time and time again. And again in this race, he will have to start from outside the top 10 and find a way through. But he did it in Silverstone, got all the way to P2 from, I think, what was it, 12th or 14th on the grid or something like that? Or
somewhere down there, yeah.
Yeah.
Same at Jules Villeneuve.
He was, yes. So I think we're about 2 minutes away from the start, Darragh, if I'm correct. So please bear with us, ladies and gents. But but yeah, it's a demoralising sight, certainly for Tom Aldermenga, to see Viktor Ivanov on pole position and him outside the top 10 and sort of thinking, right, how do I make my way through here? Because I think he's something like 15th or 14th today. But I do think if you pit at the right time, get the undercut, you can gain a lot of positions in one go. And then it's just a case of staying in the DRS for someone in front of you, using the battery management, because we have seen it before in Imola, people sometimes sort of unintentionally giving one another a toe in the race, which keeps them in range. We saw a very visual example of that in Academy with Istvan Single and Thomas Smit, with sadly ending in a controversial collision, but it was quite clever of Thomas Smit to sort of, after being overtaken, to stay behind his rival despite being on the harder tyre compound, which in theory shouldn't be performing as well. Being able to use that to sort of almost like a magnet, as I was saying, to sort of claw back into the back of the Super Venturi. So I imagine a lot of people will have been watching that with keen interest in Pro and trying to replicate that for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I think some of these guys will have been keeping that watchful eye, seeing what was working well in the Academy race, and of course combine that with the practice they have been doing in the weeks since Silverstone to try and find out what the best strategy, what the best tactic will be for this race around Imola. Of course, for the teams, I mean, it's very tight, the team championship. Royal Blue, Team Iris, Burst Esports, and MX27 all split by just under 20 points. We're going to have to see how they cope in this race. But I think we're very nearly ready to go then for the start of this race around Imola. For the San Marino, Imola, Emilia Romagna, whatever you want to call it, Grand Prix.
They're very nostalgic here, Darragh. They call it
yes,
San
it's had many
Marino.
names in the past, but it's around Imola. It's around the Autodrome. Autodromo Imola. I'm sure, Ed, you can repeat the full name once again at some point during the race, but we're going to get ready to get going very shortly indeed. Of course, this is the halfway point as well. Halfway through this race will be halfway through the Pro Championship for 2023. But here we go. We're just about to get going for this pro race here at Imola. The lights are coming on. Viktor Ivanov is on pole, but he's on the slight outside grid. Of course, there's a formation lap. I'm very used to there not being a formation lap. But we can look at the strategy in the meantime. Everyone's on a hard, to my view. And yes, we'll have to go through who is starting where. Viktor Ivanov then on pole with not a blue car, but a very nice, well, not nice, but a very bright pink car. Look, Munier in second for Team Iris, with Zalagianis in third. And just behind him in fourth was Patrick Sevet. Fletcher, Leonov, Barbikov, and Wesley Bookout as well, rounding out the top 8 for this Imola race. And the top 10 are just rounded out by Danny Van Den Niet in that Netrex and Christian Pasquale in that Visceral Esports car. Mirko Mancini and Alex Lehoux round out the top 12, meaning that there's 3 Team Iris in that top 12. Cam Roger, of course, second last time out in Silverstone, starts from 13th. Where can he find himself at the end of the race with Meshed in P14 and Giannis Lianos in 14th with Tom Oldermenger. Where can he come through in 16th? Erkan in 17th, Morville in 18th. Paul Augustin and Matt Toussaint round out the grid for this 20-car race for 50 laps around the Pro Championship. Oh no, we've got Caspanizio. Caspanizio tagging along at the end of us in that Super Venturi. He'll do well to find his way through during this race. And yeah, it's a couple of strategy changes, Ed, but generally everyone's gone for the hard.
Yeah, and in speaking of which, in terms of our streak of 4 different winners in the first 4 races, if we want to make it 5 out of 5 different winners, has to be someone from outside the top 3 that wins, because all of Ivanov, Moynier, and Zalagianis they've won before this season, so it needs to be Sevet, Fletcher, Leonov, etc. Literally anyone from 4th through to Nizio in 21st would continue the streak. But yeah, as you say earlier, Royal Blue leading the team's championship despite not having won a race yet this season. So could that change today? I think Patrick Sevet is probably going to be very keen to put that right.
Yeah, and strength in numbers has very much worked out for Royal Blue so far this season. We're just seeing Caspanizio come towards his grid slot in 21st position and last on this grid. But then when he slots in, we will get ready to get going for this 50-lap race around Imola. Here he comes, just lining up now. We see a couple of drivers very wide in their grid slot. I think that is Ivan Leonov, who is nearly in the middle of the track there as we're just about to get going. Leonov, he has an interesting view down towards turn 1. He's got a nice open gap for him to try.
Well, we know where he's aiming, don't we, Darragh?
Yes, definitely. He'll try and stuff up the inside of Patrick Sevet if he can, but the lights are just about to come on for the start of this one in Imola. 50 long laps here. Look to Ivanov. We'll be hoping to get the launch off of the line, but here come the lights. 5 of them, and then they will disappear. Can Viktor Ivanov get the start he needs, or will Munier be able to get him off the line? We're away, and we'll see if Ivanov can get the launch. He can, and Munier is just going to have to slot in behind as they all file through, maybe 2, 3 wide on the run down to turn 1. Someone going wide off the track as they fly through the first Tamburello chicane. Oh, and there's a spin. Oh, big moment, actually. I think that was George Zalagianis who's just managed to hold onto the car, but there is a big spin in the background. Absolute carnage on this opening lap.
Oh, dearie me. And I thought Academy starts chaotic. There's an Iris that just turned turtle there and has lost its rear wing. I believe that's Wesley Bookout, unfortunately, and a couple of others, like the Super Venturi, that's missing its front wing as well. And there's a Visceral, there's no front wing too. And there's that Tom Oldermenger with no front wing as well. So bad qualifying, it's finally caught up to Tom Oldermenger, Darragh.
Yeah, I think Mirko Mancini there is in a car that looks less like an F1 car and more like a Formula Student car there down in P18 at the moment, but he'll definitely have to come in for damage. But Viktor Ivanov will be very happy to be away. Good starts for Cam Roger up to P10. He's avoided all that carnage. And Paul Augustin, Matt Toussaint as well in 12th and 13th after starting right at the back of the field. But very early stages. Those guys with damage are going to have a long way back in this race. But Meunier will know that just being in behind Viktor Ivanov should be able to keep within that 1-2 second range and just keep him at an arm's length. But he'll hope to keep him close enough to be in sight and to maybe pick up that DRS when it is enabled very shortly.
Remember, all of these top 5 on the hard tyres now, and Sevet, crucially, jumping Zalagianis at the start to get up to 3rd, which is great news for Royal Blue, as we see Erchan, remember, he qualified on pole, got disconnected at Silverstone, up the inside of Matt Toussaint into Temporello, Darragh.
Yes, he's going to take that P12 position off of the ground effect spec racing car, and he is going to be up into P12 now after a poor qualifying performance. You're right, yeah, he did qualify on pole last time out at Silverstone, but wasn't able to take the start, which let Cam Roger start from the front of the grid. But those two now find themselves 9th and 12th, which is a long way away. They were just 3 weeks ago. But we're about to see a replay of the start on head. Just what happened here off the exit of Tamburello? Oh no, we're going to see a replay. Yeah, that is, I think that's Mancini, who has gone very wide, but we're going to see the run through Tamburello when we exit through turn 4.
Yeah, so Wesley, I think, does he lose it on his own, or does he get tagged there, then hits? That must be Cam Roger there, and I think Oldenmenger gets hit a bit later on as well. So a couple of people getting very lucky around the outside, but the inside was where the drama was. Oh, he got tagged in the back by, I think that was Christian Pascal in the Visceral. Then there's the Royal Blue Mancini. Then there's Bukout being flipped up there. So Bukout trying to escape down the inside, and that was the worst place to go, sadly. And all these wounded warriors make trundling back to the pit lane, and this is going to be a bit of a horrible feeling riding on board with Tom Oldenmenger, Darragh, because, he tried to get out of the way and just got hit in the back.
I mean, he whipped the popcorn out just a millisecond too late because he then got tagged. Whoever was behind him, didn't quite get the memo of what was happening in front.
I think it's a ripcord you're thinking of, Darragh, not popcorn.
Yeah, that's very true.
On a parachute, right?
But we can now see Cam Roger. He is the lead burst eSport driver. Very much so, of course, after Tom Oldenmenger had to make that pit stop. You can see on the mini-map, actually, if you look on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, Viktor Ivanov just coming through the Valley, or coming towards the Valley Alta right now. Just in front of them, there's 3, 4, 5 cars who have had to pit for damage, who are nearly an entire lap down already in this race. And they've got a lot of work to do, as I think there might be someone else coming to the pit lane. Yes, Christian Pasquale, who has decided to retire from this race. Someone going wide back there. Who was that? That is Stephen Fletcher. Oh no, the Valley eSports driver. He had such a good starting position up in P5, but he now finds himself down in 11th, and that'll promote Cam Roger, Van der Neet, and also Ruven Machade there as well. So they're up to 8th, 9th, and 10th. But very early on in this race, Meunier, I believe, is starting to use that DRS at his disposal towards turn 1. The early doors, but interesting developments going on. Cam Roger, is he a dark horse? He's going to come around the outside of Janos Lianos for P7, and what a move that is from Cam Roger. He may have spent a little bit of time away in the last couple of weeks, but his talent has not left him at all, and he's up now into the top 7.
Yeah, great commentator too, Cam Roger. Actually saw him doing some commentary for Formula Accelerate in person. Got to meet Cam Roger for the first time at the London E-Prix last weekend. But yeah, whether he's behind the microphone, in the car, he's got one more skill than I do, at least. So big marks to Cam Roger, because like Ivanov, I didn't think was going to leave him enough space there, but he somehow made him cooperate with his charisma, no doubt, Cam Roger. You saw that burst car come in the back, and I may as well let him through. Why not?
Yeah, I felt very small looking at him on that big unit that they were stood on top of for the Accelerate Championship. But he was away for that, but he's back for the Imola Grand Prix. I note that actually he had lent his Burst Esports shirt to Jene Simicic for that event, and so Simicic was walking around the Excel Centre with Roger on his back, and I think that might have some of that stardust may have filtered down.
He's wearing a Simicic shirt right now. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Try and get that little bit of an advantage. And he's only just about 10, 11 seconds off the lead off the start of this race, so he's definitely not out of it yet after his strong showing last time out. But yeah, a little bit of a train just behind him. Lianos, Machade and Van der Neet as well for 10th place, all just in behind. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all develops, especially with some of those drivers now a lap down. You look at the likes of Will Augustin, Caspanizio, Alex Lahu and Mirko Mancini, all a lap down, and that's a little bit wide as well from Van der Neet. But yeah, those guys are lapped down. You've got to say they're probably out of the fight. But Tom Oldermenger all the way down in P15. It's just going to be a matter of trying to pick up any position he can. And if he does, it's going to have to be right at the end of the race, isn't it?
He's doing well to stay on the lead lap at the moment. Him and Wesley Bukout both. But I think Bukout isn't far off being lapped himself, to be honest. It's going to be difficult. I think Tom has really got to hope that others up ahead hit trouble and he can just keep in touch with a clever strategy, because there aren't going to be any safety cars to bail him out, that's for sure. Moynier, I'm impressed here because he's been able to keep the pressure on Ivanov, stay in the DRS zone, and Sevet himself has been keeping him very, very honest indeed. So this is turning into a freeway fight up front. Zalagianis, I think, has gone into tyre saving mode.
Yes, he has, and I think he might just be biding his time, sitting in behind and waiting for that gap. Of course, Zalagianis, a bit of a dark horse, I'd say, for the back end of the season. Poor start to the season, with 7th in Bahrain and 18th in Spain, but he did get a 9th in Canada, which was tainted by I think he got hit by Ivanov, actually, into the hairpin, which from spin around and lose a lot of time and quite a few positions. But that win last time out in Silverstone shot him up into the top 5 in the championship, and I'm sure he's going to be going after at least a top 3 come the end of the Interlagos race. And that is still a couple of months away. He won't be thinking about that just yet. He'll be thinking about trying to get through the top 4. As we see, that's no front wing on Stefan Barbukov, and Leonov just flies straight past and up into P5. Barbukov is not having the greatest time, as we will have a quick look at the replay of I presume, what's befallen Barbukov there.
I think this might be Danny Van Der Neet, actually. Oh, and he's had some kind of wheel issue or something that has forced him to come to a dead stop at the exit of Villeneuve chicane. And that's a big shame, because Danny was on for some decent points there, subbing in at NX27. And so that was one of the Royal Blues coming out of the pits, being serviced, and Barbukov had nowhere to go, just slammed into the back of him at very high closing speed there. Oh dear, this is very, very ugly, Darragh.
Yeah, that could be Mirko Mancini, maybe, who...
it is Mancini, number 55. Yeah, Mancini,
he's got 3 wheels left, which is not the ideal. I think he was only just trying to let his teammate pass, but that has turned out to not be the case. I think communication heavily lacking there, and there he is in the outside of turn 1. I don't think he's going to be moving very far very soon in that Royal Blue car, but, you know, he can try and get a push on the Marshall, see if he can get his way around to fix that car, but I don't think he's going to have much luck at all. But even though I'm still leading this race, we're only on lap 7, but we've had a year's worth of entertainment so far in this race then.
Well, it's certainly been interesting, but look at this. Sevet has got past Moynier. Moynier has made some kind of error somewhere. It is now very much at the mercy, with Zalagianis suddenly starting to wake up a bit and focus his attentions on the back of that Iris. So Moynier, who I just praised for doing so well while we're watching that replay, has gone off track somewhere and I think rejoined behind Patrick Sevet.
He has, not.
Yeah, it was middle sector. He lost 2 seconds in the middle sector on this one.
Wide at Piratelli, wide at Aqua Minerale. It's very easy to do at all of these corners, because of course you've got to be so precise with where you turn in the car, try and hit that apex with the corners being quite high medium speed. We're seeing it again. I think that's 2 Team Ira's cars this time, or was it? Yes, I believe it was 2 Team Ira's cars working together. I think there might have been Alex Lahou at the back, just in 19th. He hasn't overtaken Van Der Neet, but I'm sure he will when he comes around this corner. Because Van Der Neet retired just on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane. Yes, he does. There he is, up into P18. But he's just behind George Zalagianis, just a couple of laps down. But George, I think, will see that he has made that mistake. Might, try and put a little bit of pressure on the Team Iris driver, because if it's happened once, it can very easily happen again.
True, but at a certain point, Zalagianis, he's a very smart boy, the young Greek driver. He's the Academy champion as well. As we see Moynier almost immediately make a mistake as they go into variant to alter Darragh, almost to prove me wrong. Zalagianis round the outside, and look, Moynier now off the podium. And you can see Alex Lahou.
It's my point now.
You see Alex Lahou just behind, thinking, why did he do that? Like,
he's going to be asking to be let pass now soon as well. Alex Lahou, return the favour. Give me the lap back, but I'm sure he was just sticking behind his teammate, trying to pick up some slipstream and some DRS, carry him maybe towards Casper and Izio, but the gap between Lahou and Izio is wide. We look back now for this little bit of a battle between Gianos Lianos And the man in P8, Reuven Mershade, who is behind in that virtual drivers by TX3 car. He has that DRS on the back of Lianos. Is he going to try and make the move into turn 1? No, not this time. Feigns to the inside, but just pulls out at the last minute. Maybe making Lianos have a bit of a ponder as to whether he would send it to the inside. But he wasn't able to force him into any kind of mistake. And they're just going to have to settle for P8 at the moment. But Lianos will have to keep defending because he doesn't seem to be gaining any time to Cam Roger, who has gone up the road by a few seconds now.
Yeah, Cam making hay while the sun shines in 6th place then, ahead of Lianos, and all the drama for the likes of Fletcher, and I think Sergio Fletcher is really ruining starting on the medium tyres because we saw him struggle so much into Variant Alta early in the race, and it's just put him down in 9th and sort of out of touch with that lead group and doing well to hold off Arda Ercan at the moment. But here's Mershade and Lianos fighting each other, and Mershade as a substitute, I'm trying to wonder if he's competed in a before. I swear he has, but I can't remember how well he's done in previous events that he's taken part of. But certainly one of the better subs that TX3 could have called upon. Of course, they've had to completely change their lineup over the course of this season. They started with Joshua Hamilton and Peter Vagapov, and now they've got a completely new lineup here in Imola due to what's happened to Vagapov, as mentioned earlier. But Mershade doing well to stay in the DRS of Lianos and could well be just picking his moment, biding his time here, and just moving about in the wing mirrors in the braking zone to put a bit of pressure on the Netrx driver.
Yeah, I think he may be, being a sub-driver, hoping to do what some others have done before. I cast my mind back to Spiker and Marcus Winkelhock. That was it, Marcus Winkelhock, who took the lead at the Nürburgring. I'm sure he will have had that slightly in the back of his mind to just arrive on the scene and take the lead in a race. But as it is, he's P8. He might be trying to work his way through. He is working away at Giannos Lianos, and we've seen the drivers make mistakes. Munier, of course, making a couple there, losing him 2nd and then 3rd, showing you that it can happen to the best. Oh, as Mershade just goes a little bit wide through Aqua Minerale, bouncing over the curb as he rejoins the track, but we'll just have to re-engage in the battle with Lianos and try and find another way of getting back past. But these two at the moment look to be the closest on track, as the gaps have opened out somewhat. There's only 15 drivers remaining on the lead lap, and it is only lap 10 of 50. But I do know, actually, after looking at Tom Oldermenger's gap very early on, it hasn't widened very much between himself and Viktor Ivanov. So it might be the case that some drivers might start just falling into his grasp by the end of this race.
Well, certainly with Barbakov having his teammate just appear in front of him as up the inside goes Reuven Mershade.
He does, and he looks for the move, but around the outside, Lianos defends incredibly well through the Tamburello chicane, and Mershade is going to have to try again next lap if he can muster up enough pace on this tour of the Imola circuit. But he's just going to keep plugging away, and when he gets past, it'll be interesting to see if he can catch up to Cam Roger, who is himself chasing down Leonov for 5th as well. So battle starting to brew up, especially down towards the back as well. I mean, some of the lap drivers, even though they are lapped, are in a little bit of a battle themselves. You can see at the mini-map down there. I think that's Ivanov and Sevic coming towards Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2 once again. Mershade going wide, but yeah, Sevic is gaining on Ivanov. You can see on the top left of your screen, the gap now just bubbling around a 2nd. And could Sevic be on for challenging for the race lead shortly?
Oh, I wouldn't put it past him, but Sergio Fletcher has hit real trouble, dropping from 9th to 12th on this lap alone. So I really think something's gone badly wrong on the mediums. The yellow mediums on the yellow valet are just not working in this heat, apparently. The hards are really the ones to go on to. So the valet driver, all on his own in that team, really losing out, which is a shame. And Fletcher retires, as it looks like Mershade's gearing up for another attempt to Darragh.
Yes, he is. He's trying every single lap, but he can't quite find a way past at the moment. This is turning into one of the defensive masterclasses at Imola by Gianni Lianos, I should say. I apologise. Oh, it's Giannis Lianos. I'm having a moment. I've mixed up 2 names in my mind, and I've come out with them still mixed. But he's still up in P7 at the moment. Mershade, I think they'll get to a point, won't it, where he starts just getting a little bit annoyed, and he might end up sending it if he can't find a way past over the next couple of laps. So we'll have to keep an eye out to see if he becomes a little bit frustrated in that TX3 car.
I think visually you can just see how frustrated he is on the exit of some of these corners. That he is just thinking, get out of my way, Leonos. Jeremy Leonos is like, I'm not going anywhere. But yeah, I was just thinking back to before I got interrupted, Oldenmenger, as we see once again Machete closing in the rear wing of Leonos. Oldenmenger is close reach within about 8 seconds of Barbakov, having to pit for that new front wing. So I think Oldenmenger will find someone to fight with, but whether he's going to be able to make much progress beyond that remains to be seen. As here we go, the TX3 on the inside.
He is on the inside, and he's very much past this time. Leonos, not a hope for him to try and defend into turn 1 on this occasion. And Machete is up into the top 7, and he's going to try and chase after Cam Roger now. As we have a look at the couple of battles here, Zalagianis and Munier, not much in it between them, just under a second for 3rd and 4th. Grand Effect Spec Racing and the Team Iris driver locked in battle at the moment. Munier, of course, that little mistake through this very corner, Aqua Minerale, cost him that 3rd position, and he'll be trying to work his way back to the podium. But a lot to be said, actually, for Zalagianis' consistency over the last few races. If it wasn't for that that contact at Canada, I think he would have had 3 podium, or well, would be on for 3 podiums in a row here, or even definitely 3 top 5s. So there's got to be something said for his consistency at the moment in this championship, and there's questions over whether he can try and carry this through for the rest of the season, because if he can, he might be in with a shout for the championship.
Oh, well, it's difficult to say, because he certainly had the big blow early on, because he got pole position in Spain, led the first 13 laps, was on an alternate strategy on the softer compound, led the first 13 laps until a lightning strike in his hometown, destroyed his internet essentially and made him instantly disconnect, which was a big shame. Whether he could have beaten Ivanov in the end, we'll never know, but certainly he would have stood a decent chance. I would love to have seen that in action. And elsewhere, he's driven very, very strongly, it must be said, made the best of whatever strategy he's on. He is the reigning Academy champion, as I said. In fact, him and Moynier had quite a few battles back in Academy as well. And I remember Zalagianis coming out on top in quite a few of them because he won the championship, and Moynier ended up, I think, 3rd in the end, with Vagapov in between them. But yeah, I think Zalagianis has always struck me as a really, really quality driver, a big asset for the Grand Effect team. And he's got a very wise head on relatively young shoulders. So let's see if he can hold on to that podium, potentially make the best of his strategy and try and keep Sevet and Ivanov a little bit closer to him, because they're starting to get away at this point, Darragh, which is not really what he would have wanted.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone would have seen last time out, Zalagianis' great strategy at Silverstone, which saw him take the win just in front of Cam Roger. So we will know how well his head can work when it comes to the strategy department, and how well he can make the calls on whether to go onto the tyre, make the undercut, or try the overcut. So we'll have to keep an eye out, see if he tries the same tricks from his locker today. But you're completely right, they are gapping Ivanov and Sevet. Are gapping Zalagianis and Munier that little bit at the moment. The gap between Sevet and Zalagianis, 2nd and 3rd, bubbling around 4 seconds at the moment, and that is not looking like it's coming down anytime soon. But they've got a nice comfortable gap as it stands to Leonov and Cam Roger, about 8 and 11 seconds back to those two respectively at the moment. But I think it's still bubbling up interestingly here. Everyone at the moment on that hard tyre, so clearly the tyre of choice. But when the drivers change their tyres, they're going to have to think about how they're going to cope with that, well, seemingly lap of grip and seemingly poorer structure on the tyre, because they're going to have to pit a little bit earlier maybe again than they would have hoped for. So do you think they're maybe going to push for the 1-stop, take these hards as long as they can, or maybe try the 2-stop and just have that short stint on that medium tyre?
Yeah, I've just been looking through the people who had to make early pit stops, but unfortunately, with Sergio Fletcher out, all the people who made early pit stops also started on the hards. They still have to switch to the mediums. I would have thought maybe Tom Oldenmenger had played a blinder here, despite getting into the accident, but nope. Everyone's in the same boat, starting on the hards, because nobody planned to get in an accident in the first lap, obviously. That would be stupid. But yeah, I will.
It's very good contingency planning, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
if,
it would,
if you foresaw a crash on the first lap.
But I think what's most likely going to happen is everyone's just going to wait until using it until the last possible moment if they can avoid it. Just go on the last 14, 13 laps on the mediums near the end.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that'll be a target. I think if we see some drivers come in around half distance, they're probably likely to go for that 2-stop. But if they extend past lap 30 towards lap 35, we're probably looking at that 1-stop strategy for them. Of course, as well, Imola has a very long pit lane, doesn't it, compared to some other tracks that we do visit. So that will also play into the minds of some of the drivers as they are driving this Imola circuit. Of course, they're not necessarily having to think too hard about who they're fighting, who they are trying to pass, because there isn't too many people within a second of the driver in front. But we're just looking at Munier, who is just over a second behind Zalagianis. This gap is very similar to the gap between Sevet and Ivanov, so you can just kind of imagine in your brain what Patrick Sevet is looking at on the back of Viktor Ivanov, because the gap is strikingly similar between first and second as it is between third and fourth.
I apologise, Darragh, because I'm completely distracted by the face on the top of Loic Moynier's helmet. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I just noticed that as there we go, yeah.
I assume it's some French celebrity and not Moynier himself.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that Zidane, actually? If I turn my head around, it looks like Zidane.
Well, please don't break your neck in the middle of commentary, Darragh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't be ideal, no, but I think that's Zinedine Zidane. We can't really see it very well from that
Well,
angle,
we can see his fingers from this angle.
Yeah. Well, if it's his fingers, not his fist, it might not be Zidane in that case. But we'll have to find out if we can find a nice little still camera angle at some point to see who that is. But here's Patrick Sevet in his royal blue car, 2 shades of blue, looking resplendent in the afternoon sun in Imola. If you stuck him against the sky, you wouldn't really be able to see him. But Ivanov can definitely see him in his rearview mirror. And Sevet can 100% see Viktor Ivanov in front of him, because there's just a big pink blob that he's chasing down at the moment. I think there's going to be discussions being had. Who is going to blink first on the strategy? I mean, we've seen Ivanov go a couple of... I think he's done 1 stop extra in both the last 2 races. So will he try the same again? Will that mean Sevet goes for the 1 stop, Ivanov with a 2 stop? We will have to wait and see. But this race is leading up to be interesting, actually. Strategies are going to come into quite a big factor, I think. And as well, looking at Tom Oldermenger, he's still 1 minute and 3 seconds behind Viktor Ivanov. So he has got some cracking pace on him. And every driver is just falling back towards him at the moment.
Yeah, the other thing is, with everyone out on hards, they all want to wait as late as possible to pit to avoid being stuck in traffic. So as much as they want the undercut, they don't want to give themselves too much work to do.
Yeah, definitely. Because it'd be difficult to make the move if it is absolutely necessary, compared to when we were at Silverstone last time out. Of course, Zalagianis hit earlier, but Cam Roger was able to get back past him after the first set of pit stops, but wasn't able to do so on the second round. But I don't think that'll be as easy to do when we come to the pit strategy here this evening. I noticed that the track temperature is increasing ever so slightly. It's gone up from 37.0 to 37.2 to now 37.3. So it is increasing just that little bit. Ambient temperature staying the same at the moment. But that'll also play into a little bit of a factor, as I think that's just increased again to 37.6. The sun has come out a little bit more, and the track are heating up accordingly. And I think these tyres may start to feel the pressure a little bit. As we have a look now at Barbikov, he's been outpassed by Tom Oldermenger now for P12. So Oldermenger, he's making the moves when the drivers appear in front of him, because he's going at the leader's pace, and it's just whether the drivers in front fall back into him, or if he can try and work his way up to them.
Yeah, certainly. And unfortunately, with them being so far back, it's not like when Ivanov pits, he's going to come out behind Oldermenger. It's going to be more about Llanos, Mercedes sort of territory, depending on how big the gaps are when they all pit and who stays out longer than who. But yeah, look at Barbikov struggling to hold on to the rear end, so he's not quite got the ultimate pace that Oldermenger does. And if Oldermenger can get the gap down to under a minute, he has taken about 6 seconds actually out of Ivanov from a few laps ago. So that really shows you how much he's been pressing on then in the Burst eSports car. So we got Roger very quick up in 6th, and Oldermenger trying to get into the top 10 to sort of damage. It's damage limitation really for Tom Oldermenger today. He needs to limit how much damage Ivanov can do in the championship.
Yeah, and that Burst eSport team not having the great day that they had at Silverstone last time out. Of course, they finished 2nd and 3rd, but currently 6th and 12th. If we do have a quick little ponder about the team's championship, Royal Blue currently sat in 2nd, but then back in 13th with Barbikov and Mancini, who is out of this race. So they're also not having the greatest evening.
Well, they've
Team
got
Iris.
Sevet in second, though.
Oh, yes, Sevet in second, Bubby in 13th, but with a 3-car team, that is not the ideal position for them to be in. For Team Iris, Munier in 4th. Then you look back for Bookout in 14th, and Lahu is out as well. So those 3-car teams not faring very well at all here this evening, and maybe NX27 might find a few more positions with it just being Victor Ivanov in this race for them. Of course, but, you know, with Victor Ivanov leading, that is still 30 points for the team, so that would put them up to 138 and would require all the other 3 teams to gain points to make sure that they keep their position in the championship. So still lots to look out for. Of course, we are very nearly approaching halfway in the season in about 5 laps' time. But Ivanov, he is pulling that gap out a little bit, just about over 2 now to Patrick Sevet, and he is looking to stretch his legs that little bit more.
Yeah, 3 tenths quicker on that previous lap. So Ivanov just starting to control the pace, dictate what's going on around him. As you were talking about teams champions, it's so crucial for Wesley Bookout, I think, just to finish the race, especially with Lahu out of the picture now and out of the race, because even down in 14th, he could get really vital points that's going to help Iris keep in that battle second in the teams championship with Royal Blue, Grand Effect, NX27, Burst eSports. I think all of those teams are big threats. We've got TX3 7th and 9th looking to score relatively well today as well. So they're big threats out there. Even Grand Effect have got Tucson in the top 10 as well, with Zalgianis third. So it's hard to know really where to look from that point of view. But certainly from the driver's point of view, it's all going Ivanov's way, as I was just praising TX3. And off track goes Ruben Machete. So inexperience in this new for 2023 FSR hybrid car coming in there. But that's the thing with Villeneuve. It always sort of drifts you out. So hard to stay out of the gravel when you're on the racing line.
Yeah, and we're just going to see it here. A little bit of a bounce over the first part of the chicane, and then that just carries the car wide through the second part and off the track then. And it just comes towards Tosa there, but not the ideal line, and that won't be what he wants to replicate for the last 30 laps or so here this evening. But Machade is just 3 seconds or so off the cam, Roger. As we have a look again at something that's just happened. Kevin Morville, this is. Towards the first corner. Let's see, towards turn 1. Oh yeah, you could just see he gets the right tyres on the grass ever so slightly, and that is what leads him to using that gravel trap on the outside of turn 1 to bounce across towards turn 3. But not the ideal line from Morville, not the ideal line at all, and he'll be trying to work his way back. Currently in P11 at the moment, and Tom Oldermenger is gaining on him fast.
I would say actually that was kind of smart from Kevin Morville, because he braked. You could tell the rear wheel was braking on the grass, right? So he was worried about the car turning and him just end up losing more time. So he just let it go straight, let it go through the gravel. Didn't do anything silly. We did see one driver, and I won't name names, messing up the rejoin from the gravel, as it looks like Morville's decided to bail into the pits so that he doesn't have to suffer being passed on track by Tom Oldermenger. Or it's just a strategy play, which is very legitimate indeed for the Frenchman. But I thought that was actually sort of, he knew the tires were giving up. He didn't want to spin. That was actually kind of avoiding a worse incident there for Kevin Morville.
Yeah, thinking in terms of just keeping himself alive at the moment, really, rather than considering how to keep himself exactly on the track. We're going to have another look at something that's just happened just a moment ago, and this is one of, I think it was this Christian Pasquale, I think, just going a little bit wide through turn 2, the tyres, I think all of the tyres.
It's Paul Augustlane, because Pascal's already out there.
Yes, that's right, Paul Augustlane. And it was one of the one of the two Mr. Esports cars. I couldn't remember who was out when he was still in the race. But yes, that was Paul Augustlane. P15 then, currently for him. He's a lap down. But he will try and work his way up towards Kevin Morville. But Kevin Morville, having just pitted, I believe, is already at Tosa, which is complete... Oh, yes, he is. There he is. Complete opposite end of the track. You couldn't get further away if he tried. So he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to try and catch up there. But yeah, Tom Oldermenger up to 11th. And might be into the top 10 soon. But there we go. Kevin Morville coming to Akmirali. You can just about see Wesley Bookout in front of him in the Team Iris car. And that's who he's going to be chasing down for P13.
In a way, these guys having all been caught up in incidents at the start, it sort of frees them up in the strategy, because they don't need to worry about what the leaders are doing. They're all just racing against each other. And that means the leaders, they've only really got to worry about the top 10, essentially, in their own battle whenever they pit. So you could see a lot of interesting strategic stuff happening near the back here, and it'll be interesting to see whether Oldenmenger responds to Morville's pit stop or stays out a bit longer and just ignores him.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's probably more likely that Oldenmenger will probably stay out, probably ignore that pit stop from Kevin Morville, only because Tom Oldenmenger knows he's got the pace, and if he can extend this stint by a few more laps, he might be able to maybe maintain the gap, maybe close it a little bit. Of course, Morville with the fresh tyres will have better pace in general, but whether Oldenmenger can, you know, have a better percentage of pace compared to Morville on the older tyres might see him closer by the end. A lot of strategy.
Set a personal best lap, by the way, Darragh. Cameron Roger, 121.078. So he's about 2.4 behind Leonov at the moment in 6th. So that's really good this late in the hard tyre stint, at nearly half distance, to be able to do that from Cam Roger. So that, to me, says there's more life in these tyres yet.
Yeah, and I mean, just about a second quicker than Munio as well, 9/10 or so. Up in 4th and another half a second out of even Leonov. So yeah, those guys definitely falling back towards Cam Roger at the moment, who didn't have that greatest qualifying session. A little bit of a more quiet lap this time around on lap 24, but he's still gaining that time back. He's not having to worry about Machade behind him very much for defending his P6, but he can try and look in front of him, see Leonov down the straight in front and try and gain that time back to him. Approaching half distance now, which suggests that these guys are extending for that one stop. But that gap at the front as well, even of Sev, up to 3 seconds now. It's coming out slowly, but it is coming out surely.
Yeah, we also got a message in the chat from Alex Lahoo, who says classic rFactor 2 luck. So that unfortunately, looks like the Alex Lahoo curse has struck again, and that's why, after being 2 or 3 laps down, he's decided to pack it in, or maybe it wasn't even his decision, got disconnected. As Tucson pits from 10th. So that's an interesting stop for ground effect then.
Yeah, just about half. I think this will be the end of lap 24 for Matt Tucson, and he's putting on that medium tyre. I cannot see him getting to the end, frankly, on that medium tyre. I mean, it might be possible. I mean, we're seeing the drivers go half the distance on the hard tyre, but with the track temperature high and people just already seeming to slide about on their hards, I don't know if it's going to work. But we will find out. We'll see what the pace is like. And Matt Tucson can be our nominated guinea pig for this medium tyre in this race. The only driver on the yellow striped tyre, and we'll just see how he can do with it. He's not far in front of Ivanov as well. You can see him in the app. He's coming down towards turn 1, the Tamburello chicane, with Patrick Sevitt not too far behind him. But Matt Tucson, he's got Stefan Barbyakov not too far in front of him. He's just up before Piratella. So he'll be trying to chase him down. Of course, fresher, softer compound of tyres. And I think that'll be his aim over the next couple of laps.
Yeah, the typical Matt Tucson strategy is about to get really long into the race and then pit for several sets of soft tyres. So, which it seems to be his specialty. And to be fair, he somehow makes it work. He finished 10th in Spain, in Barcelona, with a really clever strategy. And I think he might be trying to do the same thing here, especially with the early attrition we've seen in this one. But he's probably got his work cut out trying to outsmart Oldenmenger. He might be able to catch up to Barbakov, though. But Oldenmenger, as you said, not really responding to these stops around him. So he's doing what the leaders are doing. He's trying to play his own game and try and finish in the top 10 here.
Definitely is. And that's going to be important for him to try and pick up every position that he can. He's, what, 25 seconds or so behind Darragh for P9, which may be difficult to gain. It'd be the second lap for him if he was to do it, but you never count anything out with Tom Oldenmenger. He has pace, and he has it in abundance. His race pace is, quite frankly, second to none in this series. You can still see he's not lost any time to the leader Viktor Ivanov since that pit stop after lap 1, the instant that saw quite a few drivers out of this race, including Christian Pasquale and Mirko Mancini, although I think Mancini died, if we will remember, at turn 1 after trying to get out of the way of his teammate, Stefan Barbyakov. So, lots happening there. You can see Cam Roger now. He's gaining on Leonov. You can see him getting ever closer in front as they come in towards the Villeneuve chicane, and Cam Roger's got that carrot dangling in front of his face, and he is going to be chasing after it as he tries to get up into P5.
Yeah, and a purple first sector for Tucson, predictably 19.9. on those medium tyres. So he's really starting to push them to try and close the gap to Barbakov, as you said, Darragh. But yeah, Roger, it's really starting to go. Burst eSport have got a really, really good setup for the race. They clearly have put all their work into the race, arguably at the expense of qualifying maybe, but I'm sure they certainly didn't intend to qualify as low down the field as they did. And it's just a case of damage limitation, really. But certainly Roger could be on for potentially a top 5 result here. But I think the top 4 group, they just seem to have broken away from Leonov quite early on, and it's sort of stayed at that 5-second gap. So I think there's a bit of a ceiling on what Roger can do here, unless he can do something very, very special in the second phase of this race. But certainly he has impressed from where he started.
I think definitely he'll be pleased with this after having spoken to him last week. He didn't necessarily seem like he thought he was going to do incredibly well here this evening. So I think 6th place will definitely not be a disappointment for him. He'll be pleased about that. We see Kevin Morville now going towards the Villeneuve chicane. I think that was, yeah, book out. He was getting past there. I think he book out. Or no. I'm not too sure what happened there, but Morville, I think he's chasing after Bukout.
And
Was that for position? Yeah.
And Bukout seemed to think he was being lapped again and got out of the way, but it was actually for position. So.
Or did Bukout actually move aside for Munier there? Because I think this is Morville just behind Munier. I think he got out of the way for Munier, and then in doing so gave up the position to Kevin Morville. But I think that's yes. Yeah, there we go. So I think So Munier is in 4th, of course, the lap up. And I think that Bukout has just let him by, let Munier by, but because Morville is so close to the back of the driver in 4th position, and he was able to slip through as well, and he's up into P13, which he's not going to complain about one bit. If anything, he's pushing Munier down the track with the pace he's currently showing on those fresher, hard tyres, but not quite as quick as the pace on Matt Toussaint. But here comes Kevin Morville with the DRS. He's just going to fly straight past and unlap himself from Loic Munier. And Munier won't be too concerned about that. He'll just watch, he should be able to watch Kevin Morville fly up the road and just hope he can, mess around with Zalagianis a little bit, help him gain some time to him.
Yeah, and we see exactly why Wesley Bukout didn't try and put up too much of a fight against Morville with his teammate there. Not only was he trying not to hold up his teammate Moynier, but he also was heading to the pit lane anyway for a fresh set of hard tyres, and he's come out ahead of Paul Augustlani. So it was actually probably on balance the right move for the Irish driver there to sort of avoid damage. We saw exactly what happened with Royal Blue earlier. What can happen when Barbakov's coming along and Mancini didn't move out the way, and how disastrously that can go. So very, very smart from Bukout.
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting to note how quite a few of the drivers have been working very well with the teams. I mean, or attempted to work very well with the teams, letting their teammates pass. Didn't work out so well down at Royal Blue, and I'm sure they'll be happy to forget that one in a hurry. Look at this, Cam Roger, just over a second now behind Ivan Leonov. So he's really gaining for top 5 here. And Munier is only, 3.5, 4 seconds in front, as that's Leonov diving into the pit lane. He is the first of the top 10 to come in for a stop, and we'll have to see where that puts him out, and whether he can get a little bit of an undercut on Munier here. Of course, they have tightened up that little bit, but now Cam Roger into P5, and let the pit stops commence.
Yeah, Machete coming in as well. Meanwhile, Matt Toussaint has caught right up to the back of Stoyan Barbakov as well in that battle for 11th, as Machete misses his pit box, slides in sideways. Oh my goodness me. Lucky he didn't go the way of Sergio Fletcher there, and has to get out of the way of Lianos as well, who's just coming in. So it's all action here.
Yeah, pit lane isn't necessarily that busy, but we found a way to nearly have a collision in the pit lane with Tina, Machete and Lianos, as we've seen Erkan coming out of the box. Tom Oldermenger hasn't stopped yet. He's going to come out just behind Machete. Not that right, literally about 5-6 tenths between them at the moment. So good work from Tom Oldermenger to stay and actually close within that pit window, because of course he would have pit with the damage and will have lost that time off the start. Ivanov in, the leader is finally in, with Patrick Sevitt straight in behind him as well. So the top 2 are in. Will Zalagianis follow? I believe he's going through. Yes, Zalagianis is going through. He will take the lead of this race. But this is where the race is going to be won and lost, as everyone starts to fit on this medium tyre.
Yeah, and actually you see for Toussaint, him pitting onto the mediums and trying to undercut the people around him almost worked really, really well, because he's caught right back up to Erkan, Lianos, Machete, who are miles ahead of him before that. So it's a very, very powerful undercut here. And Ivanov pits, Sevet responds on the very same lap, as does Moynier. But Zalagianis, as I expected early on from him backing off so much, has decided to stay out, and Roger as well.
Yeah, Cam Roger, he stayed out last time out in Silverstone twice after Zalagianis pit. He was trying to do the overcut, which didn't work either time, but he's trying it again around Imola. We'll have to see if it works out for him, but he'll hope to keep his P6 and maybe gain a position if he's lucky. Tom Oldermenger as well, and he will come out on a medium tyre, and then he will continue his charge. But we see now Barbukov, I think, defending from, is that Matt Toussaint? Yes, it is Matt Toussaint, going straight past the Royal Blue Racing driver, and he's back up into the top 10 now, is Matt Toussaint. As we look now back up to Ivanov, he's on the back of Munier. These two really closed up through the pit stop phase.
They did. I wondered what exactly what happened there. But it definitely feels like it was a little bit of a slow in-lap for Loic Moynier, because he's 12 seconds behind Patrick Sevet now, as Zalagianis now enters pit lane from the lead.
Does, and so does Cam Roger. So those two are the last two of the top group to pit. I think Barbukov is the... Barbukov and Morville, actually, no, everyone on the hards, I believe, still has to go to the medium tyre. So, if they're on the mediums, they've completed all their pit stops, and if they're on the hards, they've still got a stop to go. Is an easy enough guide for those of you watching at home. We see now, it's Leonov with the DRS, straight past Munier. You can see Cam Roger coming out just behind them as well. He'll be seeing that Munier has dropped another position, and he'll know that Munier doesn't quite have the pace. And if he has the pace of Leonov, as he did at the end of that last stint, he'll know that he can try, at least try, and get past Munier for that top 5 position. So, this race, about 18.5 laps to go. I think it's going to get exciting towards the end as the drivers start bunching up on this medium tyre.
And Leonov just set the fastest lap of the race that time around, so he's come alive on these mediums. Moynier, by contrast, seems to be just absolutely struggling on them.
Yeah, I think the DRS helps there. Of course, the timing line on rFactor 2 at Imola is quite a long way down the straight. The start line, really, where all the drivers line up behind, contrary to some other racing sim games that will have it slightly further back on the straight. So I think the DRS playing a bit of a part there, as he gained a couple of tenths down the straight. But here's Leonov still defending from Munier, who isn't really getting away very well, is he? And Cam Roger might hope that these two start fighting a little bit so he can try and get up into this battle for 4th.
Now, the interesting thing about Zalagianis staying out, that I wonder, is having that lap fresher medium tyres. Is that really going to make the difference when we get into the closing stages, as Moynier once again using the DRS to sort of tie a little string on the end of the Netrex and to sort of reel it in the picking zones when they get to them. But I wonder if that's the plan from Zalagianis, just to hope that Sevet or Ivanov just runs out of medium tyres near the end, with it being so hot, with the mediums being the trouble compound, as it were, as we see Barbukov, Bucat and Paul Auguslane go in the pits. Or is this just a sort of... he had to pit later to respond? Because I think with Leonov and Moynier fighting each other, he could arguably maybe even stay out another lap and maybe come out just ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the conversations that would have been having had in his own mind, just to try and work out what the best strategy is for him. He's in a little bit of no man's land at the moment, isn't he? About 8 seconds or so, 8.5 behind Patrick Sevet, 5 ahead, I should say, of Ivan Leonov. But these guys look like they might start to be in a battle. Cam Roger as well, showing some very good pace at the moment. Personal best first and second sector, which are both quicker. Both sectors are quicker than both the sector times for Leonov and Munier as well. So lots to be said for Cam Roger's pace at this stage of the race, as you can just see him coming through the back of shot, just appearing there in P6 then, as Leonov is ahead. Remains ahead of Munier, who can't really find his way back past. He's really just trying to latch onto the back at the moment, clinging on for the back. But another man showing the pace is Tom Oldermenger. Fastest lap, 19.2 for him, currently down in P11, and he is gaining on the likes of Toussaint, Erkan and Lianos. Exactly.
Also interesting to me, George Zalagianis set a purple middle sector on that previous lap. which was 120.4, so still slower than Ivanov, admittedly. But it shows that he hasn't given up on trying to keep Sever in sight, and he may even have to worry about Leonov behind, only about 4.7 seconds in arrears. So Zalgiris sits another middle sector, 25.9. So yeah, it really shows you exactly where that ground effect car is strong.
Yeah, definitely, and he is really enjoying that middle sector at the moment. Of course, on the mini map, the little lines marking between, so just up between Tosa and on the exit of Aqua Minerale is where Zalgiris is finding quite a lot of that pace for him. But these two, Leonov and Munier, still engaged in battle. The two of them 4th and 5th. In the Teams Championship, these positions can be important as well. Can Munier try and get the move done towards turn 1 on this occasion? I think he's a little bit too far back. But Leonov in that Netrex car, they're currently in P5 in the Championship, 94 points. Just 22 behind Team IRS, who are 2nd. So every point counts at the moment for these guys in this battle, and they'll know that for their teams this is important, especially with their teammates not doing very well. Van der Neat for Netrex out of the race. Lianos doing relatively well in P8 as well will help, but for Munier, his teammates P14 for Wesley and Alex Lahou is out, so he really is their sole breadwinner here this evening for the big points, and he'll know that his position is more important than ever for the Teams Championship.
Exactly, and we talked about Leonos getting defensive earlier. He's going to have to do it again because Arda Erchan has been really pushing. 119.9 last time, around 4 tenths quicker on the previous lap. They pit on the same lap together, so there's no real tyre delta here. This is just the TX3 driver really absolutely hassling him as they go through Aqua Minerale. And really feels like the race, which had sort of gone into a lull, has now absolutely come alive. Paul August Lane sets the fastest lap down in 15th, 118.4. As Zalgiris again sets another purple middle sector, and this time actually sets a faster lap than the two drivers ahead of him. So Zalgiris finally starting to get the best out of these mediums compared to the two ahead of him, given that they're a lap fresher.
7 tenths is what he gained on Patrick Sevitt on that last lap. That middle sector just getting quicker and quicker and quicker at this stage. But Cam Roger as well in the 1 minute 19s, whereas Leonov and Munier currently in the 1 minute 20s. Cam Roger is the only driver in the top 10 outside of the top 3 in that 1 minute 19 range, so he's doing very well indeed to keep the pace, and that gap between himself and Munier is down to just about 2 seconds now and is decreasing, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that in the final 15 laps of this race here in Imola. I think you've got to say that the first 25 laps or so were a little bit quiet, not too much going on, but with the pit stops and with the drivers bunching up that little bit more after moving on to that medium tyre, this race has really come alive, hasn't it?
Yeah, it always ends up being a bit of a strategic race here at Imola. So I think Kevin Morville is the only driver who's yet to get off the hard tyres still. So he's done 21 on the hards, 14 now on the hard, on another set of hards. So he's probably going to try and go for the softs near the end. Kevin Morville, another one who does love just having the fastest lap next to his name. But Oldenmenger, meanwhile, is desperately trying to get into the top 10. I wonder about Tucson because he's done 11 laps on those mediums. So it is going to be quite difficult getting them to the end. He could be quite vulnerable from the likes of Oldenmenger in the closing stages.
Yeah, he very much can. And with Oldenmenger, I just saw him for the first time when you know, with the pit stop strategies complete. He is now just about within a minute of Victor Ivanov, which is something we haven't seen for the entire race. So it just shows that Tom Oldenmenger could have been quite a big factor in this race had it not been for that lap 1 incident that cost him well over 40, probably even 50 seconds.
Or if he'd qualified a little better, Darragh,
yeah,
if I dare say.
Oh, I don't want to be mean.
Oh, that's true.
I
am in a video with Tom where he talked about a World Championship race at Silverstone, which is great. Do watch that in the 20 minutes in between this and World Championship if you need a recap or just a refresher. But that was really good fun. Tom gave some amazing insights there. So very, very intelligent and articulate driver, by the way. So always great fun to work with and to talk with him.
Yeah, and it's always nice to see him up, especially near the front of the field where it feels like he belongs now, after showing such great pace throughout the early part of the season. Here comes Munier again, the DRS enabled for the Team IRS driver as he comes down towards the first corner. But again, nothing doing on this lap. Cam Roger still gaining to even Leonov, which is the key driver to be gaining on, of course. Munier in that DRS, because Munier is getting pulled along by the NetRex driver at this stage of the race. So, you know, Ivanov looking ever comfortable, isn't he? 5 seconds clear of Patrick Sevet, and without a big mistake, he should be well on his way for the win here.
It would certainly appear to be that way, and it looks like the we're not going to get 5 different winners in in the opening 5 races, unless Patrick Sevet can somehow get something out of the bag. But he himself has been caught by Zalagianis ever so slightly, so it could be he's in defensive mode near the end with Zalagianis' lap pressure tyres. The big battle in my mind is the one we're watching at the moment for 4th between Leonov, Moynier, and Roger, I think. As we see Tucson have to take... Is that a second stop for Tucson?
Yes.
It is.
And that should get him to the end, though, because there's only 12... What will be 12 laps to the end for him, I do believe. As you can just see just behind him, that pink monstrosity.
It fills the frame
Victor
every time
Ivanov.
I see it, Darragh.
Yeah. It's difficult to miss, really, if it's flying through the picture. Even if for a split second you can very clearly see it in the background. But yeah, Matt Tucson just about on the lead lap here, and he will try as hard as he can to stay on that lead lap with the fresh medium tyres, but he may find himself having to give up the lap soon enough if Ivanov continues to catch him.
Or indeed if Barbakov holds him up as well. He's right ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely. Because Barbakov, I don't think, will be too keen to just let him fly past. Paul Auguslan as well, just in front of them. But he's about to go 2 laps down if and when Ivanov gets past him. But yeah, I think you were right. That battle between Leonov, Munier and Roger is the one that we are going to probably see quite a bit of in the closing stages of this race due to the larger amount of points and how close those guys are at the moment. But, you know, Munier looks like he's falling a little bit outside of that window with Leonov. It's getting dangerously close to being outside of the second at the moment, but that'll only give Cam Roger more of an incentive to get past Munier.
Yeah, another personal best lap of the race for Leonov as well. I don't know what... he did seem to be sort of thereabouts in sort of 5th and 6th in the first stint, and now, ever since that pit stop where Moynier just emerged in front of him, he's just absolutely come alive, like I said. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's these medium tyres just suit him a lot better than the hards, it would seem.
Yeah, it's very possible. Some drivers like some tyres more than the others. But we see Matt Tucson here still trying to plug away at Slovan Barbakov for P11 in this race. Ground Effect versus Royal Blue as well. Ground Effect, of course, also a team to talk about in the championship, especially after George Zalagianis' win last time out at Silverstone. Only a 2-car team with George and Matt Tucson, but they are plodding along very nicely. After 4 races, they had 79 points, and again, even though they are down in 6th, they are only 48 off Royal Blue at the top, and despite being a 2-car team, they are still having something to say in that team's battle. We have now, look at Munier. You can see Munier, and then just behind Cam Roger in that gold, white and black First eSports car. Just in behind, he is really gaining on these guys, and I think they're going to start getting worried about Cam Roger's presence in the background, especially after knowing that he was nowhere near them at the start, and how come he is so close towards the end of the race, because he's been showing some excellent pace. But here comes Munier. We'll have to see if he can get past this lap, but he does look a little bit too far back, doesn't he?
Yeah, the DRS is effective on this main straight, but it's not that effective, I'm afraid. So you're going to have to try harder than that, I'm afraid, to clear Ivan Leonov. And Leonov, let's not forget, by the way, competed here in the World Championship for NetRex last year and finished in the top 5. So that really shows you that this is not only a good track for him, but him and Tom Aldermenger have both sort of come back down to pro from being in the World Championship last year. And they haven't forgotten that experience. They've really taken it with them and become better drivers than when they left, I think, arguably.
Probably giving them that little bit more of an incentive to try and work their way back up to the World Championship, and they've really showed some good performances so far this season. Matthew, he's still in front of Ivanov, which means we keep getting to see that absolutely wonderful looking pink car across our screens. But Matt Tucson will probably be getting some kind of some kind of headache by seeing that pink in the rear view mirror at this rate. He'll be trying to get past Barbecue to just make it go away if he can, but he hasn't been able to do it so far, and with every lap that passes, those medium tyres are going to become a little bit more on pace with Barbecue. Of course, the shine coming off them after every single lap, and the tyre differential going from new to used reduces every single time you go around until those mediums hit the cliff. Which is another thing to note, isn't it, Ed? The mediums didn't seem to be very happy. Matt Toussaint did, what, 15, 16 laps or so on that medium tyre, and the guys at the front are asking them to do 20 plus. So that's going to be something that plays into their minds, as we see, yeah, that's Matt Toussaint just letting past Victor Ivanov. But yeah, that's going to be something that plays into their minds. Will those medium tyres last to the end? And if there's a question over it, could there be some drivers that deal with it less well, really, and fall back a little bit more towards the end?
It could be. It really depends how much life they've taken out of them in the sort of opening phase, really. In terms of Ivanov's livery, if I'm Matt Toussaint, I just close my eyes and pretend it's all a bad dream, but that's not really an option for him, understandably. But yeah, I think we saw with Sergio Fletcher in that first stint, the mediums just looked absolutely horrible on the valet. And admittedly, they seem to be, now that everyone's had to switch to them just to make the strategy work, we've seen a lot of the other teams cope a little bit better. But at the same time, there's always that temptation to take a little bit more life out of the tyre than it's really capable of, or that your setup is really going to allow it to. So especially Matt Toussaint having to make that extra stop it's not atypical for him, but he did stop very, very early to get on the mediums and did 13 laps on them, like you say. So I think Toussaint should be good to go to the end. The others, well, we'll wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, Darragh.
Yeah, I think we might be in for an interesting dash to the line. But, I mean, while we were looking at Matt Toussaint there, I mean, we can see the gap between Leonov, Munier and Roger down to just over a second between all three of them now. So there is a nice little train at the moment for 4th, 5th and 6th. And with, what, 7.5 laps to go or so, who's going to come out on top for this one? I mean, they're a ways off the podium. 11 seconds is the gap up to George Zalagianis, so I don't think there's too much worry for George in defending that podium. He should be very safe to take the bottom step at least. So 4th, 5th and 6th is realistically where the fight is at the moment. And it just makes you wonder who's going to come out on top. Munier looks like he's got a little bit more pace on this lap, doesn't he? But Cam Roger is still lurking behind.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Loic Moynier, being a very, very intelligent driver, saw Leonov fly past him and thought, right, I'm just going to save tyres and get him at the end. But it wouldn't be the first time he's tried something like that, as we see, again, Matt Toussaint, even on the fresh tyres, still unable to overcome Barbakov, who at least has had to move aside for Ivanov now, who, because he's got much older tyres than Toussaint, he's not really been able to break away, has he?
No, I noticed actually that Barbecue took the DRS as well, so he might have let Victor Ivanov pass before that, before the zone, so would have got the DRS off the back of him to help defend from Matt Toussaint, which is not a bad strategy in itself. But yeah, he's still up in P11. Matt Toussaint still 12. Paul August Lahn still chugging along very nicely indeed on that set of soft tyres. 18.4 was his lap just a couple of laps ago on the soft, so he is chugging along nicely, but he is 2 laps down. As we go back to this battle for 4th, 5th and 6th, and now you can just see from Cam Rogers' point of view how much he's closing on the 2 in front.
But like you were saying with Barbakov, as we see Roger just get a little wiggle on through Variante Alta, the problem is that Loic Moynier is getting DRS off of Ivan Leonov, so that means Roger, where he would be hoping to breeze past Moynier, it's not the case for him at the moment, so he really has to put pressure on him and make the Irish make a mistake in order so that Leonov can break away and he can pick them off one by one. But he's running out of laps here.
He is, and he's going to have to find a way. Cam Rogers just joining the party. Here comes Munier, actually, around the outside at turn 1. Can he make it stick there? Yes, he can. Fantastic move. It's going to put Leonov out of line as well. Can Cam Roger try and capitalise on that? He's right up tucked behind the NetRex driver. Burst eSport against NetRex. I don't think Roger's going to be able to get it this time around, but it does look like Leonov is struggling slightly. It was Cam Roger. Big snap of oversteer through the Villeneuve chicane, I should say. They went through Tamburello, is where Munier got the move done for P4. But Leonov, with that mistake, means that he's already lost that window to Munier for that DRS down the main straight. And Cam Rogers is going to be given all the bigger incentives incentive even to try and get past and up into P5, which would be a fantastic result after where he started in this race.
Well, you could tell that was a nasty shock for Leonov. He thought, right, I've got just enough gap to once again hold off the DRS of Moynier. And he's like, oh, why is this purple car coming up the inside? Oh, now I've got to defend from Roger. And to be fair, he was really on it with Roger. He immediately went to the left-hand side, middle of the road. And Cameron Roger was way too sensible to go for that one. But now there's a big gap to Moynier. Roger is probably going to get him easily down the DRS here on the main straight.
Let's see then, Cam Roger. He is hungry for more. He is hungry for P5. And he is hungry for back-to-back top 5 finishes in the FSR Pro Championship. Here comes the DRS. Here comes Cam Roger, the number 57. He'll take the inside line, and he should surely take P5 with another cracking move. He's gone around the outside earlier on in the race. He goes down the inside at the Tamborough chicane late on in the race, and with 5 laps to go, he improves to the top 5, and he'll now have to try and defend that position from Leonov, who slipped back from 4th to 6th in the space of just a lap and a half.
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of battery used there by Roger as well, just to hold on to that. So Cam, I think he'll be pleased with that, but he won't want to let Moynier get away. He probably hasn't quite got enough time to get through, but he'll definitely want to challenge for 4th as well.
Definitely will, and he will be given that incentive, knowing that he had the pace earlier on in the race, knows that Moynier is prone to a mistake, as we've seen a couple of times in the early stages, and with only just over 4 laps to go for these guys, Cam Roger's going to be chasing after Moynier with everything he's got to try and get past the Team Irish driver and up into P4. But it really has been a fantastic drive, hasn't it, from Cam Roger here this evening, with Tom Oldermenger having those issues off the start. He has really taken up the baton incredibly well, and a P5 finish, if he manages to stay there, would not be disrespectful at all.
No, not at all. And very, very important points for Burst in the team's title as well. But Moynier, after that difficult start with Zalagianis and Sevet getting past him, he's actually recovered pretty well. I was sort of thinking, once Leonov got by, like, oh no, poor Loic, but he was actually much craftier than I really gave him credit for in the moment. Much like Cam Roger, it must be said. So,
so yeah, Oldermenger. I was gonna mention this actually. As we look at Tom Oldermenger here, Tom Oldermenger is gaining on Lianos. He's just about 3 seconds behind at the moment. There's a car in front of him. I think that could be Wesley Bookout. But yeah, Oldermenger is really gaining. He's 58 seconds now for lack of Ivanov, which means he's gained at least 5 since he made that pit stop on lap 1 to the leader. So there is an argument to say that he is actually been the fastest driver here this evening, if he didn't get caught out by an incident that you can't really say was his fault at turn 1 on the exit of that Tamborough chicane. So that's to look out for in the closing stages. Not much in it between those two for P9. And Oldermenger is closing, and he'll hope to close that a little bit more. And I noticed by looking at the timing screens, Cam Roger closing on Moynier once again. But Leonov has got the DRS, and we'll see if he can get past into turn 1 on this occasion.
yeah, but this is where Roger is probably going to be quite clever and make sure he has the battery and enough gap to prevent Leonov just diving one up the inside, like he did to him a few laps ago. But yeah, up front though, the top 3 positions look pretty sorted now as Alagianis is charged. He started saying about the same lap times as Sevet, as Leonov actually gets very close around the outside into Villeneuve on Cameron Roger. And Roger, oh, is he letting him through?
I wouldn't say he's let him through though. I'm not too sure what's gone on there. Is there an issue on Cam Roger's car? He looks like he's falling back quite significantly.
Please don't tell me he's having to save fuel or something.
Yeah, that doesn't... I think, yeah, It looks like he's lipping and coasting. Down into turn 1, it looked like he lifted off quite early, and that is absolutely not ideal for Cameron Roger. Oh, no.
Don't tell me he's underfueled the car. That's a catastrophic error from Burst
Esports. He would have realised that before now.
No wonder
Cameron
he was so
Roger.
quick.
Yeah. Oh, no. This has gone from possibly bad to absolutely awful. You can see him short-shifting down on
right,
that
20
steering
seconds
wheel.
to Machete, so
yeah,
he's got to hold on to that.
I don't think he will, frankly. He's already lost nearly 10 to Leonov in about just over half a lap, so it's not looking good for Cam Roger at all. He might even find himself in 10th place if he keeps dropping away like this, but oh no, I mean, that's gutting for him, surely, with only just a couple of laps to go.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the other burst of Oldenmenga, he hasn't given up. All over the back of Lianos now, and I think Barbakov is that Barbakov who's caught up to the back of it? No, he's about 26 seconds down. That's somebody trying to lap them, but I think it must be Patrick Sevet. But Oldenmenga, yeah, he certainly will know Roger is in difficulties, and from his point of view, that's more points for him. Here he comes.
Here he comes, outside line. Can he do what Cameron Roger did earlier on in the race? I think he can. Oh, no, he can't. He's been squeezed out onto that gravel on the outside of turn 1. I'm not too sure if Lianos left the cars worked on the outside. They're difficult to see from that angle. But Tom Oldenmenga bouncing across that gravel. I think that there... I don't actually know who that is behind.
I think it's Wesley Bukout, sorry.
Yeah, it could be Wesley Bukout, yeah, because he's not
been
lapped, being
so that's why he's, not attacking.
Yeah, so Bukout a lap down on them rather than trying to lap Oldenmenga and Lianos. But yeah, look, we can see Michele here. Whether he knows it or not, Cam Roger is dropping like a stone. He probably sees the car in front of him thinking, where has that come from? But Cam Roger is just falling back and back and back. He might just about finish in 8th place if he's lucky, but he is falling back quite heavily from Leonov and Munier in front. But Leonov's really been gifted this P5, and Michele is going to be very pleased to pick up P6 if he can get past on this final lap.
Yeah, and let's not forget Ivanov isn't too far away. He's just coming into, I think, Sector 2 now. But yeah, final lap to go. This is very, very tense between Michele and Roger. With I think Cam is going to have to, again, pull out something very, very special to make sure he's got enough fuel to cross the line. It's not going to be a lot left in the tank at the end of this.
Definitely not at all. Michele just gaining. Just having a quick look at Ivanov. I think he's just about to come round the final couple of corners in this race. Michele's still gaining. I think he might be able to just about get past Cam Roger, who we see here. But Ivanov should cross the line just in front. Oh, it's Roger very wide, but Ivanov does win the race. But we're just going to still see if Michele can get Cam Roger in the most dramatic of fashion in the final sector of this 50-lap race. Of course, 150 sectors. And for Cam Roger, it might be heartbreak in the final one. Here comes... Oh, Michele, he sent it to the inside of the Variante Alta, which is not where he needed to send it there. He's probably going to have a better chance if he waited in towards into the final couple of corners. But Cam Roger, can he just about hold on? There's Ravazza 1 he's dealt with. Ravazza 2 can he deal with as well? Has Michele blown his opportunity? They're going to come out of the final corner. Does Cam Roger have enough fuel to get himself to the line? It's a long run to the line, but I think he just should have enough to do it. And Cam Roger, yes he does, comes home for P6 in the end, but he is going to be gutted that he wasn't able to fight for P4 in the end with that lack of fuel. But it is Victor Ivanov who wins the race. Patrick Sevet and George Zalichanis in 2nd and 3rd, with Munier in 4th and Leonov in 5th. Tom Oldenmenga will come home for 10th after falling a little bit away from Lianos at the end there. Not too sure if there was contact or what happened there, but a great result, wouldn't you have said, from Ivanov, and a stunning drive. Didn't look like it was at all.
Yeah, certainly. It's not one that the history books will just say 10th, but it won't say that how much you had to recover there. There's that collision, actually, with Lianos, I think, from a bit earlier. So...
Yeah, I think that could have been the final lap, that, actually, because we saw... I think it was Bukout coming through, so I think that was the final lap, which is why we saw that gap opening up. And yeah, you can see here, yeah, that's because Tom Oldenmenga not being given any room at all on the apex of turn 1, had a car fully alongside, and probably feels like he deserved a little bit more room than he was given. So I'm sure that will be referred to be reviewed post-race. But top 10 either way, and on pace, realistically, he was the fastest man on track by the end of the race. He was gaining time on the leader, Leonov, after that big mistake. And Ivanov, I should say. But here is Ivanov as he comes through the pit lane. Hopefully, this is the last time we see this this livery. But I'm not going to hold out hope. It's worked for him, so he may decide to keep it.
Yeah, let's just hope we don't see a second pink and orange NX27. Let's hope that whoever's in the second car just sticks with a normal Netrex livery. But yeah, full credit to him. Pole position, nailed the start. Never really looked particularly challenged behind from either Moynier or Sevet. And everyone was following to the beat of his drum, really. And that's the case in the championship too. And you've got to say, Ivanov increasingly... Now that he's broken the different winner streak by being a repeat winner, it's looking like he might well take a stranglehold on this championship, Darragh.
Yeah, definitely so. But with Seb and Giannis in second and third, that will help them out. But the order in the end after that 50-lap race at Imola, Viktor Ivanov won. Realistically lights the flag. Of course, he didn't lead every single lap, but he just he controlled it from Patrick Sevitt, who was about 7-8 seconds behind by the end of the race. George Giannis in third after last week's win at Silverstone, another podium result, maintains his momentum in this championship. Munier fourth and Leonov in fifth, with Cam Roger probably disappointed in the end in sixth after having to save that fuel towards the end. Ruben Mercedes in 7th place, followed by Arda Erkan, the two TX3 drivers in 7th and 8th, with Giannis Lianos and Tom Oldemanga 9th and 10th, but I'm sure something will be said about that incident on the final lap. Stoyan Barbikov in 11th, Matt Toussaint in 12th after that two-stop strategy, with Kevin Morville 13th, Wesley Bucat in 14th, and Paul Augustin a couple of laps down in P15, and then the retirees from this race, Casper Nizio, Alex Lehoux, Sergio Fletcher, Danny Van Der Neet, Mirko Mancini, and just the final man in the order, Christian Pasquale, the Visible eSports driver, at the back of the field. Well then, that's it from us in the Pro Championship here in Imola. Next up, we'll be at Spa in 2 weeks' time for the Belgian Grand Prix around the beautiful circuit of Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes Mountains. My thanks to you, Ed, for joining me this evening. It's been a fantastic race around Imola, and are you looking forward to Spa in a couple of weeks' time? What do you think we'll see from the Pro Championship there?
Oh, certainly. There are a lot of drivers in the Pro. I'm very much looking forward to seeing Peter Vangerbilt back in the TX3, but certainly all the drivers from Burst, Netrex, NX27, Iris, and the
Royal
rest.
Blue.
Royal Blue too. Yeah, just wanted to make sure I crossed off all my tables, and of course Super Venturi and the others too. But I think Ivanov certainly just looks on top, and it's going to take quite something from the likes of Oldemanga, Zalagianis, or Sevitt to build up a challenge. And Sevitt now takes P2, I believe, in the Drivers' Championship. I'm very excited also for what's happening later in the evening in World Championship. Simoncic versus Dennis Jordan, and Jordan in a Ferrari on home turf for the Scuderia. Bring it on.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right to say that Viktor Ivanov has that stranglehold on the championship after 5 rounds of 9 in the Pro Championship. But of course, World is coming up very shortly, so don't go too far. Maybe grab yourself a quick bit of dinner and then come back for the World Championship. But yes, my thanks to Ed Hunter for joining me. Thanks to Cas on the broadcast, who's given us some fantastic pictures all the way through this evening. But we'll be back for the Belgian Grand Prix in a couple of weeks in the Pro Championship. We'll be back in about 20 minutes or so for the start of the World Championship race at Imola. So don't go too far. But thanks for watching, and good night.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols, and welcome to Highlights Motorsport.
Who's going to break his 5th world title?
For Mike Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And
Look at these two go.
oh, he's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.